Carlos Moreno.
And we do the Pledge of Allegiance. So everyone, right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there he is.
Hi, Council. Good to see you all tonight. Let's pray and ask God's blessing upon our city and our nation as well. Lord, we thank you that you are here tonight. The first thing we want to do is give you praise and bless you and honor you and worship your holy name. How great you are. You've given us a wonderful city to dwell in, and we thank you that you've given us wonderful people to help lead us as a community, to guide our steps in the various acts of business and just relationships, but we're also just people communing together and giving their best towards one another. Thank you for the community that you have given to us. But we ask your grace upon our nation this time and at this time because we have seen so much devastation. We have the hurricane that's going on and Dorian and God, we ask that you would cause that to calm and cause the people to reestablish their lives, and those who are facing things, get them prepared, and may you just keep your protective hand upon their lives. We've seen the other devastation that has to do with people who go out to harm others. Lord, we ask that you would bring calmness to our nation, that you would cause people to have a sense about them where the enemy would never stand in our way to bring forth the grace of God, but that you would take control of these kinds of things and allow people to begin to bless one another rather than hurt one another. We are concerned about these things. Who was living down there with his mother at this time was shot the other day, and his friend twice in the chest. And God, I pray that you would bring healing to all of these individuals who have been hurt, the families who have been disrupted by this in the community. We ask, God, that your grace would be sufficient for each one of them, and your word declares that it will. So we thank you tonight that we can be here in Paramount, and we ask that you would protect us, keep us well, and that no one would want to bring harm to our community, and that we would stand together for a common good, for loving one another, for blessing one another in all things that we do, in all things that we say. In the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen? Here. Councilmember Lemons? Here. Councilmember Olmos? Here. Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Here.
Mayor Hansen?
Here. Okay. We do have a presentation and proclamation tonight, so if council please join me down at the podium. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have one proclamation to make, but first we want to thank Jesus Ramirez and Carlos Moreno from the Boys Are Back futsal team who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The team, which is made up of Paramount High grads, were members of the JROTC, won third place in our annual Paramount Cup foosball tournament over the summer. We have Paramount Cup events throughout the year. These offer a chance for folks from the community to meet and take part in some competitive sports. The next one will be Dodgeball Tournament on September 21st. We appreciate Jesus and Carlos for coming out this evening, doing such a great job with the pledge. And if you would, please join us up here because the city wants to have a photo of you. Also, if we could, please welcome Paul Conrad from Total Western, who is a board member for the Greater Los Angeles, Rio Hondo, or Long Beach, excuse me, Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay chapter of the American Red Cross. Howdy. Mr. Conrad is here to help us recognize September as National Preparedness Month. This observance is designed to educate the public on the importance of disaster preparedness and promote family and community emergency planning. We need a lot of that going on in Florida right now, in the Bahamas, right? The theme this year is Prepared, Not Scared, Be Ready for Disasters. Natural and man-made disasters can cause severe damage and endanger lives, so preparation is essential for everybody's safety. Government aid and resources. Our city works very closely with the local branch in a number of ways. We encourage all residents to check out their website and work on being prepared. I now proclaim September as National Preparedness Month in Paramount and give this proclamation to Paul. Here you go, Paul. There you go. Thank you. And would you like to say something?
Sure, real quickly. Well, thank you so much to the City of Paramount. They're a strong supporter of the American Red Cross, the dedication of each individual to their own preparedness, but also the support of cities and other organizations. And I've been in Paramount a long time now, and the Red Cross had a relationship with Paramount for a long time, and we really appreciate the proclamation and all that you do to help us keep the community prepared.
Thank you. I need one picture here. Yes, that is all for tonight's presentations. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Good. Okay, City Council public comment updates.
No public comment update, sir.
Okay, public comments.
Yes, sir. We do have a few here. The first off, I have invited Captain Dave Springle from the Lakewood Sheriff's Department to come and address the council on a few public safety, or a couple public safety issues that popped up over the weekend. With that, I'll turn it over to Captain Springle. He can come up to the podium, and he wanted to say a few words to the council.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Hanson and Council, for allowing me to address you tonight. I am Captain David Springle of the Lakewood Sheriff Station. I would like to take this opportunity to address our concerns for the community regarding the incidents from the weekend. First, regarding the issue of street racers and the intersection takeovers we have been experiencing. This has been a huge concern and an ongoing problem for law enforcement agencies throughout Los Angeles, Orange, and Riverside counties. There is no quick fix or solution to this public safety threat. However, Paramount's public safety team, working with City Manager John Moreno and Lakewood Station personnel, have been proactive in addressing this. Personnel have conducted 6 separate operations directly targeting the street racers. During these operations, our personnel have made over 10 arrests for street racing related violations, along with separate arrests for a gun, driving under the influence, and narcotics-related offenses. We have issued more than 100 citations and impounded more than 20 vehicles. We have sent 3 Paramount City-assigned deputies to street race enforcement classes and have had our traffic sergeant conduct in-house training for our patrol personnel to better assist them in enforcement of the street racers. This has assisted patrol personnel for enforcement during regular patrol shift activities. A great example of proactive policing during normal patrol operations would be your Paramount City Deputy Thomas Albanese, who has arrested and or cited 15 individuals for street racing related violations in the past couple of months. We continue to look at proactive actions to impact this problem and threat to the community. which includes working with the Los Angeles Police Department, Riverside Sheriff's Office, and other local municipal agencies to better attack this problem. We have further met with the District Attorney's Office in Compton Court to ensure our arrests and citations meet the proper criteria to ensure proper criminal filings. We ask that the community continues to call when they observe these actions and be a good witness to what they are seeing. We ask them to please do not interject themselves into a dangerous problem by taking actions into their own hands. We are doing our best to combat the issue, and it is of the highest priority to us. We are responding to these calls as quickly and effectively as we can, deploying as many station assets as we can to assist and impact the issue. It was my understanding, and I did confirm, we had a delay in responding to an incident on Sunday during the intersection takeover at Downey Avenue and Madison Street. Although the deputy's response was within the normal parameters for response time to a priority call, this delay allowed the suspect's annex to go on for several minutes. We have looked at the response and are discussing it with our personnel. Shortly after that incident, another intersection takeover occurred at Orange Avenue and Jackson Street. Our personnel responded and arrested a suspect for reckless driving, cited a suspect for blocking the intersection, and cited 2 other suspects for exhibition of speed while impounding all 4 vehicles involved. The racing and the intersection takeovers are clearly a concern that we have. I can assure you that we take it very seriously, and we are working with the Public Safety Office, with the city manager, to ensure not are we only properly deploying our assets, but utilizing every resource we have available to us to continue to address this concern until it's eradicated. I would also like to briefly address the unfortunate event on Sunday morning, which occurred at approximately 10:20 a.m. in the Village Skate Park located at 7718 Somerset Boulevard. The victim, a male Hispanic, 35 years old, was shot and killed. There is no known motive at this time, and the investigation is ongoing. There is at least one suspect who was seen running from the location to an awaiting vehicle, which then fled the area. I have no additional information on the investigation at this time. Regarding activity at Village Skate Park, I reviewed incidents dating back 2 years. This review showed a total of 28 total calls for service. These calls included three crimes against persons, including robbery and assault, and 5 property crimes, which included grand theft, vandalism, and stolen vehicles. These calls led to several arrests for robbery, assault, criminal threats, narcotics, arrest warrants, and local city code violations. Additionally, regarding proactivity leading up to the incident on Sunday, over the past month, our personnel have been very proactive in the Village Skate Park. They have been proactively patrolling the park several times a week during different times of day and night and have made several arrests for a variety of crimes to include assault, narcotics offenses, and others for arrest warrants. Their proactive efforts have further included working with the city's homeless population and working to implement stay-away orders to keep persons who are loitering or participating in criminal activity away from our parks. Again, we take the parks, the safety of the community very seriously. The team, led by Sergeant Ed Sanchez, is proactive in their policing. We have dedicated deputies to the park, and we are proactively taking actions to continue to try to provide a safe environment for the whole community to enjoy the parks. That's the only comments I have regarding that. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? None?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a question. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yes.
I did get a lot of phone calls on the night of the incident that occurred, and so I appreciate having the follow-up information to say that there was another takeover in another intersection where arrests and sightings, took place. I would just like to say, though, that my community is really frustrated because I get the calls and I could hear the cars racing, and it did go on for over 20 minutes. And I understand about response time, and I also understand about deployment. And I know that if there's units there, the takeovers are not going to happen where the units are. So it's a catch-22. If you're not around, they're going to happen. But if you are around, like the community wants you, then they're not going to happen. So I understand it's a tough situation to be in. But I did want to let the community know, and I would like you to explain what exactly is our deployment, because what I try to convey to my community members is this: if we only have a certain number of units and it's a weekend night, they're busy. They're handling shootings, they're handling, dead body calls, they're handling domestic violence. So how many units do we deploy on a weekend night, just to give the community a good reference to say, you know what, if we're tied up, you know what, a response time for street racers may take a little bit of a low priority, and I know nobody wants to hear that, but it's the truth. So can you explain a little bit about what a deployment looks like on a weekend night?
First of all, with regard to the speeding and the street racing takeovers, that is definitely a priority. I don't think it would ever be underscored. With regard to our deployment, I believe on PM shift, our normal deployment is five patrol cars, but then they can have additional resources through the service area team, as well as other cars. And then we also have our response from the other assets within the cities, Bellflower and Lakewood as well, who are fielding a number of cars as well. Even though if an incident occurs and our units become tied up, the other cities proactively respond to the community and to assist their partners. So not only do you have the immediate resources of the city, but also the immediate resources of the cities of Bellflower, Lakewood, and obviously Hawaiian Gardens on an extended response, as well as Artesia.
Right, and I understand, that you would reach out to Bellflower or other units. I'm trying to help you here, sir, and say that sometimes you guys are going to be really busy on a weekend night.
Absolutely.
And the response time may not be 10 minutes or 15 minutes based on the call load, right? If you got 5 units and then other units outside, how many calls are you guys receiving on a weekend night for anything? What's your queue look like?
Well, I know we handle over 500 calls for service a day, so we are busy, and yes, the response times, depending on the volume of calls on any given evening, and depending on what type of calls they are, it definitely can extend our response time. Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, so with that being said, would it be beneficial? I mean, I know we've done deployments or special units where we're working on these street racers. How many times in a month or in a deployment period are we running like an overtime operation?
In speaking with my sergeant, who is really I would say the guru of the street racing events, he is trying to deploy at least every other weekend, and oftentimes he'll deploy himself because he has the knowledge and the ability to identify these things. But we are actively conducting operations. We've done 6 since the end of June, and it's been averaging about every other week consistently.
So can you let the city know, John Moreno know, that if we have the resources and we have the manpower, if it takes, putting out some extra operations where we're not just there every other weekend, but maybe another night in addition to that, is that something that we could possibly work on? It's a big concern for the community, and I'm trying to think of other ways that we can tackle this problem so that these street racers know that this is not the city they want to come to.
Absolutely, and actually, City Manager John Moreno and the entire public safety staff has been fantastic about working with us, communicating with us, and actually providing us with the necessary resources to actively go out and try to combat this. And as it is, these street racing incidents are very rapidly evolving. They're very organized, and we're always looking to explore other opportunities and other ways that we can continue to combat the issue. And absolutely, the city manager is fantastic with working with me and the open communication to ensure that we have the resources necessary.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, any other
Mayor,
questions?
may I ask a couple
Yes.
questions? Captain, thank you for being here. You had mentioned during your report that there was a 20-minute delay that you were investigating. Do you know yet why it took so long? Has that investigation been completed?
It has not been completed, but the response time was inside the 20-minute
Inside,
response.
but
it
still
was
longer than you would hope.
Yes, exactly.
Secondly, Do you know from the citations that have happened thus far, are we dealing with Paramount residents or people outside our city? Do you
I
know
believe
that?
a lot of it is coming from outside the city.
Outside the city? And then age-wise, average age, are these young people? Are they over 18?
And the majority are under 30.
Under
I would say
30,
Under 30,
but over 18?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
Mr. Mayor, in addition, regarding Village Park, I'm looking at installing cameras at Village Park as well. We do have cameras up at Dills Park, around the trail, and a couple other locations, but that's one thing that I'm looking at as well.
Okay, fine. I do have one question, and just for my own curiosity. I mean, do these things generally take place on weekends, Saturdays, Sundays? Or is it any day during the week? Has there been anything or studies on that at all?
It seems that at least experiencing within the cities that we're patrolling, it is on the weekends.
Mostly on the weekends,
Yes.
that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you very
your time.
much. I appreciate the opportunity to address you. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comments?
Yeah, our next speaker card, Mr. Mayor, is from Mr. Gerald Serta, and he'd like to discuss Spectrum Cable. Mr. Serta?
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Evening.
Today, I would like to thank all the city folks involved with the Community Emergency Response Team, the CERT, especially Anthony and Steve, and also Hector from Downey. They put a really good training out there, a lot of good information, and they made it enjoyable. Good program, 20 hours, but good program. On a different note regarding Spectrum, just to inform you, I called Spectrum back in June regarding a broken lid to an underground utility box. This hazard had a potential of someone stepping on it and falling through. And sure enough, someone stepped on it and fell through. This lady stepped through with holding a child. 2 months after the initial call, Public Works was called. They went out there, they put up the cones, but the cones walked away. So now when this incident happened, the deputies were called, the fire department was called, the Public Works were called. They put up some A-frames, some orange cones, and some yellow tape, which was good. But again, it was, in my eyes, negligence from Spectrum, especially if they were called 2 months ahead of time. And since it did tie up some emergency response teams, and put the city in a legal bind in some way, a potential legal bind, I would like to know, what can the city do to avoid these issues from happening when these companies are being called, but they decide to maybe not respond to it. I also would like to request if the city can send them a letter to fix their problems when they're notified of them, but also if they can reimburse the city for the deputies' time, the fire department's time, and the public works time, and maybe they'll consider not, neglecting these emergency calls. So yes, I would like a letter and maybe a response to that. Thank you.
Is that a possibility that we could send a letter that we're somewhat dissatisfied if it takes 2 months to bring out a lid? That's basically what you're talking about, a coverage thing?
If it definitely is not our lid, like say it doesn't belong to the water department, I would want to consult with our joint power insurance authority to make sure that we are not held liable if we were to, say temporarily secure the area before we go down that road. So
Okay.
we can definitely check in with the joint power insurance authority to see if that puts us in any exposure by covering another utility company's lids. So.
Okay.
Yes, and I did try to get the information, and it did happen. The lady came back to the substation, but it is on a parkway, so that's why I'm thinking it's going to put the city in a legal bind, potential legal bind.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker's card, Mr. Mayor, is from Andrea Crow, our local librarian. She'd like to talk to you about library programs. Andrea?
Good evening. Mayor Hansen, council members, and the City of Paramount. Smarty Pants Storytime is back. Children ages 2 to 5 and their caregivers are invited to enjoy books, songs, rhymes, and movements. Our 6-week session begins this Friday, September 6th at 10:15. And MakeMo is coming to Paramount Library on Tuesday, September 10th, and they're bringing 2 special events. First, at 4 o'clock, teens ages 12 to 18 are invited to learn how to sew. And then at 5 o'clock, children ages 5 to 12 will test their engineering and construction skills with oversized Big Blue blocks. On Saturday, September 14th at 2 p.m., we will be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with bilingual books and art. Children ages 7 and up will learn about the legend of Guatemalan worry dolls and make some of their own. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your time, too, in coming here. You're here about every month telling us what's going on at the library, and we do appreciate that. You must have had a pretty busy summer, I would assume?
We did.
Yeah.
Our summer's our busiest
A lot
time.
of participation?
We do get a lot of participation for our summer reading program, and then once the kids come back to school, our homework center is full, so it's great.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, our next speaker is Ms. Tricia Bellevue. She'd like to talk about the cease and desist orders.
Good evening, council members. I'll keep this very brief. I've just been hearing some rumors within the community that one of our own has received cease and desist letter for a video they posted. So this sends up all kinds of red flags. Excuse me. Why is the city issuing these letters? Why is the city spending these funds? It seems to be a breach of the public trust since we already have counsel employed by the city. Can you just shed
You
some light
trailed
on?
off at the end because what?
Because we already have a counsel employed by the city, so it was outside counsel that was brought in. So I'm just, before I give in to the rumors, I'd just like you guys to have an opportunity to give some light to this subject. That's agreeable.
City Attorney?
Yeah.
Well, I can give you a definition of what a cease and desist order is. It's a legal term, and it basically is defined as an order by a government agency, in the case of a city or county, and it is an order to a person or persons to terminate certain activity or practices that are found by the government agency to be either illegal or unfair. That's the definition.
But in regards to the, I'm sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor.
Yeah,
In regards to the question about retaining outside counsel, it was my understanding in the session where we approved it, because this was done via social media, and the information was false, that we had to get somebody who was an expert in social media to address the issue. Isn't that the reason that we went to
That was correct, council member. There was a council meeting, I think a few council meetings ago, where this discussion came up, and there was a direction for my office to contact this law firm that has an expertise in that, and then that person was ultimately hired to take care of this issue.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, further comments?
Yes, sir. Our last speaker card, actually, we do have another one after this, but she would like to talk on item number 9, Ms. Julia Emerson, so we'll call you up when that item comes up. Thanks, Julia. Our last speaker, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Richard Griffin, and he'd like to just say a general comment. Mr. Griffin?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, City Manager. You're in the clear. You didn't do anything wrong. I just want to say thank you. I did the CERT program August 23rd to 25th, along with Gerald and several other people in the room. I want to thank you for allowing the public to have to participate in a program like this where we can assist in areas of where the police are outnumbered or the fire department is outnumbered, that we can go in and we can search for people in their homes and try to get them out, take notes of what's going on to make a rescue for them. It was a very fun program. I would also like to present to you Stephen, which was Mrs. Lopez's right-hand man, on how well he did the whole 3 days. He was excellent, as well as Anthony. So that's all I wanted to say was thank you for allowing, for bringing a program like this to the city of Paramount, that we as citizens can be, in a way, a hero to help our neighbors in the case of, tragedies and destruction. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more.
That's it?
That's it, sir.
Okay, consent calendar.
Move it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Motion by Lemon, second by Almost, to approve the consent calendar. Have roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen?
I just have to abstain from August 6th and August 20th, yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Item number 4, report new voting experience, voting solutions for all people. Staff report.
Yes, sir. There are some big changes coming our way this next election season, and it's called Voting Solutions for All People, as you just mentioned, VSAP. We've asked someone from the county to come to share these changes with us today. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Aaron Navarez from the LA County Registrar Recorder's Office, who will tell us about these changes. Mr. Navarez?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Again, Aaron Navarez from the Registrar Recorder's Office. And again, have a very close working relationship with your city clerk and her office to make sure that we are preparing the LA County residents, specifically residents in the city of Paramount and your council, to let you know about some of the big changes that are coming in March of 2020. So Los Angeles County has been on this process for about a decade now. The initiative is called the Voting Solutions for All People, and it really is more than just a voting system. It really is a brand new, modernized voting experience that, again, we will be rolling out in March of 2020, which is for the presidential primary. So I'll spend a few moments to walk you through what the new voting experience is, and again, what are some of the ways that Los Angeles County is going to prepare our electorate to make sure that they're aware of these changes, know what the changes are, and again, are prepared for the election come March in 2020. So I'll spend very briefly walking through these, and then again, a little bit more detail. I understand you were very busy tonight, so I'll try to be as brief as possible and again, explaining the new experience. So at the top, we have a brand new modern tally system. That is the element that tallies the ballots. We have an interactive sample ballot. That is a way to engage with a sample ballot on your personal device, mobile device, phone, tablet, things like that, in a way that is very modern and convenient and intuitive. The ballot marking device, which is the kind of keystone element, the most high-profile element of the new experience, is that device you see in the center. But really, we think the two most significant elements are early voting and vote centers, which I'll touch on in a moment. As well, we have electronic poll books that replace the paper rosters that voters are familiar with, and a brand new vote-by-mail experience. So I'll start with the new vote-by-mail experience. This was actually the first element that the county rolled out in November of 2018. It is a brand new redesigned vote-by-mail experience that allows for voters to actually mark on a full-face ballot right next to the candidate or measure of their choice. We did significant surveys after the fact and found that many voters, most voters actually, found the experience more intuitive, more usable. No longer do you have to navigate between your ballot and a vote-by-mail instructions. And again, if you don't speak English as a first language, it often presented additional challenges. So in this way, it's a more usable, intuitive experience. Additionally, postage is no longer required by the voter, so postage is now paid. We are also offering expanded drop-off locations for voters to be able to drop off their ballot. And again, vote-by-mail drop-off will be available at all vote centers come March of 2020. So again, I mentioned vote centers and the voting period. Currently, voters have 1 day and one location to cast their ballot. It's the location that is a polling place near your home. For many voters, that's great. For many voters who work or have children or have other responsibilities, it can be a challenge to get to that polling place on election day. So under this new model, the voting period is expanded to 11 days, so 10 days prior to election day, and a voter no longer has to go to their polling place because, again, all vote centers now are available to them. So if you live in the city of Paramount but work downtown, you can go to a downtown vote center and pull up your Paramount ballot, or vice versa. If you live in Long Beach and work in Paramount, you can pull up your Long Beach ballot in the city of Paramount. And again, added flexibility from both location and time to allow voters ample opportunity at a time of their convenience to be able to cast their ballot. The electronic poll book, as I mentioned, is what replaces the paper roster. This is the piece of technology that actually allows for things like the vote center and early voting. This allows in real time to be able to pull up the ballot style and present that ballot style to the voter, allows for registration in real time, allows voters to update their registration, allows us to do things like cancel vote-by-mail ballots for voters that don't bring them, really making the process more convenient and delightful. Finally, the interactive sample ballot. Again, I mentioned this is a way, is an option. You do not have to do it. We will still send out the paper sample ballot, but this is a way for voters to be able to engage with the sample ballot on the device, again, your home computer, a tablet, a mobile device, be able to mark your sample ballot on that device, create a QR code, which then can be taken into the vote center. Again, this is not voting on your phone. It really is just that, marking your sample ballot like you would a paper sample ballot. You can transfer those selections immediately onto the ballot marking device, which I mentioned, to have an expedited voting experience. The ballot marking device, again, is the kind of highlight of the new VSAP model. This is a device that has been designed over the course of the last decade to make the experience very convenient, very usable for voters who have disabilities. This is now the device that will be used by all voters, so no longer will a voter with disabilities have to go to one device in the corner, or a voter who doesn't speak English as a first language have to navigate between listening to, an experience that isn't as accessible as we would have liked, to have a unified voting experience, an independent voting experience. And again, many security features are part of this. So it still produces a human-readable paper ballot. We know that's important for our voters. Security is top of mind for the registrar's office and for the county. And so we've put a lot of plans into place. We're currently going through certification testing, various levels of volume testing and penetration testing to ensure that this system is as secure as possible. And again, this device is not connected to the internet, and again, still produces a human-readable paper ballot. And finally, the tally system. This is on the back end, but we feel it's important to note that this is the system that tabulates all the ballots. So ballots aren't counted at the individual vote centers. All of those paper ballots will be collected at the end of each night and transported back to our headquarters, where they'll be tabulated centrally on a separate and a completely secure network. This is just a very brief look at the vote center process. So in many ways, it will seem familiar. You will still show up to a vote center. You'll check in like you currently do, except you won't use the paper roster. You will use an electronic Pollbook. You will be handed your ballot, again, which will have a QR encoded, and all that QR code essentially has nothing about you as a voter, but all it has is the ballot style. So again, if you live in Paramount and vote in Long Beach, we're able to pull up the appropriate ballot style for you to cast your ballot. You will then go to the ballot marking device. At that point, you will either go through the experience from beginning to end, or if you have your interactive sample ballot, you'll scan your poll pass. It will immediately populate your choices. You don't have to stick to those choices. Again, if you've learned something between when you marked your sample ballot and when you go to the vote center, you'll actually be able to change that. Again, it's not voting on your phone. It's simply expediting your voting experience. You'll cast the ballot onto the same machine, and then you'll get your I voted sticker like you usually would. Again, this is kind of hard to see, so I'll go through some of these in detail. Los Angeles County has taken a voter-centered approach to the design of this voting system, and we understand that polling places are near and dear to voters. So we went out on the road to make sure that we were bringing awareness to this new model. So over the last several months, we conducted close to 70 community meetings where thousands of voters came in and gave us information and gave us input on where they would like to vote. And so throughout that process, we got locations in the city of Paramount that were given to us by voters, locations that they're familiar with, that they feel would be convenient for vote centers. And we're currently going through this process, working with your clerk's office to make sure that we're surveying these sites, to make sure that these sites have appropriate network connectivity, appropriate power, that they're accessible for our voters. And again, we're working through that process now. It's important to note that, again, while we won't need as many polling locations, the locations that we will need to be much more significant in terms of the length. Again, because we're no longer talking about one day, but we're talking about a voting period of 11 days. And so we'll be working with your city clerk's office to make sure that we're finding appropriate locations in the city of Paramount. Test labs, this is an internal function, but we feel it's important to note Los Angeles County is taking the time and effort to make sure that we're running through these processes, going through all of the new procedures that we need to do, going through test labs where we're actually bringing in voters to experience the new equipment, making sure we're finding all the bugs, finding all the gaps, finding all the processes that we need to improve, and we want to make sure we do this prior to March. So this has been happening beginning in May. We're actually going to be completing our final test lab early this month, and again, to make sure we find everything, correct it, and improve our processes prior to the full launch. The mock election, this is a significant event that will happen at the end of this month, September 28th and 29th. It really is the first public awareness campaign for the new voting system. While we've been in development for the last 10 years, in some ways we've had to keep it under wraps because we're still running elections on the current model. And so this will really be the first public awareness campaign. We'll open 50 mock sites across the county, and we really want it to be a fun event where voters can come, experience the new equipment, experience what a vote center is. You don't have to be an eligible voter. We're trying to work with high schools and colleges to get young voters, future voters to come experience this. Again, we want to familiarize our electorate with this new model, and we feel that the mock election is a kind of a fun way to do that. Again, we'll be expending resources. I heard today one of our ads on the radio, so again, our ads are out there now to try to, again, raise awareness and get as many voters from Los Angeles County to visit one of these sites in September. Demo centers. So following on the heels of the mock election, we'll be opening demo centers, demonstration centers throughout the county. There'll be 10 open at any time, and they'll be rotating over the next several months to make sure that we have locations where voters can come. Again, if they didn't have the opportunity to experience the mock election, can come to a demo center, experience the new equipment, walk through the process with our staff, and again, gain familiarity with the process because, again, we don't want March of 2020 to be the first time that our voters have heard about this new process. The pilot election is actually a live election in November. There are about 12 cities and 1 school district that are kind of in the final throes of running their own elections. They will be consolidating with the county to administer their elections. What we're doing is we've requested through the Secretary of State, there's state law that allows a county to administer a pilot election, and we will be doing that in November. And essentially, we'll be running a current election using the polling place model and our current equipment, but we will also roll out the new equipment in conjunction and allow voters to test it in an actual election. And the final piece, again, that we want to continue to collaborate with cities. We're doing a lot of presentations like this to cities around the county. We're doing a lot of town halls and community events, and we will continue to do so. Our hope is that we can engage with the public and the community as broadly and widely as possible. Some of the material that we have is actually available in the back. We have it in English and Spanish in the back, but we have it available in all 13 languages to make sure that we're providing this material to all the voters. We are going to be doing lots of events and lots of outreach to make sure that our voters are aware. Again, we do appreciate the opportunity. I was going to finish with a short video, but unfortunately, it wasn't working with the system, but your IT team has it, and they've let me know that they will be putting it up on the website and through your social media channels to make sure that your voters are aware of it as well. So I know it was a lot of information. Again, I do appreciate your guys' time. Again, we work very closely with your city clerk. She has always worked collaboratively with us, and we will continue to do so. If there are any events or other opportunities that you would like us to engage with the City of Paramount, we are more than happy to do that. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Thank you. Questions?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Sometimes we all know electronically technology fails on us, so what's the backup plan?
Yeah.
So in a vote center, if the power goes down, we have things called uninterrupted power sources that ensure that voting never stops. On the electronic poll books, if the power goes down, there's a backup that we can reference to ensure. Again, one of the benefits of this new model is that if it was a one-day event, having a power outage or other issues like that would be detrimental. We're now talking about an 11-day period with potentially between 250 and 1,000 vote centers. So there are contingency plans that we're putting in place to ensure that voting never stops, but it's an important element that we're watching very closely.
Question?
Yes. So at each voting location, how many machines will be present?
It depends on the size of the location. Typically, we will have between 10, which would be a small, and 50, which would be a large. So again, it depends on the size of the facility, but we will have a significant number of units available at all of these locations to make sure that we're able to process the number of voters that we need to.
Okay, and then recently I went to an event where the Wi-Fi couldn't handle the number of people that were at this location. So a video and a machine just kept buffering. So they had to ask everybody in the general vicinity to turn off their cell phones. So has that been tested, the Wi-Fi systems in each county? I mean, in each area of the county?
Exactly, Councilwoman. We're going through this process now of verifying these locations. So we have a pool of about 2,000 that we're going through across the county, and we're doing significant surveys. So we do not only accessibility surveys to make sure that the sites are accessible, but we do network connectivity testing and power testing to ensure that there's ample network connectivity. And we're not just relying on one network. Typically what we'll do is if there is a secure network within the facility, we will use that as one potential option, but we will also use cellular networks. We will do a secondary and a tertiary network so that if one network goes down, we can immediately fall over to another network to ensure that issues like that don't occur.
So how many centers are you projecting in Paramount?
There could be potentially 2 to 3. Again, it depends on the analysis. I know I've been speaking with your clerk, and I think there are 2 parks. One is at Paramount Park, and I think another...
Looking at Paramount Park and Progress Park.
Progress Park. And again, those are city facilities, where there are other facilities that could be potentially school district facilities or other potential religious institutions or other private facilities. Those are the 2 city facilities that we're looking at. But again, we'll make sure that we coordinate that with your city clerk and make sure that we find the most appropriate vote center locations for Paramount residents.
Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Is this going to cut down on voter fraud and stuff like that?
Yeah, so one of the elements that we'll be able to do under the new model is in real time ensure that voters, if you were to come in and you had already cast a ballot, we'll know that you had already cast a ballot. We'll be able to do things to check like various checks like that. In reality, voter fraud is something we hear about a lot. Anytime we have any suspicion that there may be fraud regarding any element of our electoral process, we work closely with law enforcement agencies like our district attorney and the Secretary of State's. They have an investigative unit as well. Our department is an investigative unit, but we work closely with those who are, and we follow up on any and all suspected issues of voter fraud. And under this new system, there are actually more protections in place to ensure elements of voter fraud don't occur.
Thank you.
Question? Cool.
I have one more I forgot to ask. The day of the election, let's say I go down in one of the 10 days and I'm not a registered voter, can I vote at that time and register to vote and then vote?
Yes, so one of the elements of this new system through the electronic poll book, as long as you're an eligible voter, you would be able to register same day. We would check it through the statewide database, and as long as it came back clear, you would be given a ballot. If for some reason we weren't able to clear you for issues, again, do we need to make sure that the voter is eligible and we're clearing it, that you would potentially have to vote provisional, but again, if that was cleared, it would be still counted, but hopefully the process would be that it would clear in real time and we would be able to give you a ballot day of.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Afterwards. You talk to him outside, please. Item number 5, Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority update on the proposed West Santa Ana Branch Light Rail Line. Report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We've all heard about the light rail line project that has been in the planning stages for quite some time now, and it would go through Paramount. It's called the West Santa Ana Branch Light Rail Line. The project is slated to be completed by 2028, and the Metro team, they're currently in the environmental analysis phase of the project at the moment. So I asked a representative from Metro to come brief us about the project and let us know of any changes that are affecting our community specifically. So with that, I'll turn it over, to Julia Brown first. Julia Brown from Metro. I was going to introduce Magda Kana. So Julia Brown first.
Thank you, John. Thank you to the mayor and the council members for allowing us to be here. My name is Julia Brown. I'm the Metro Community Relations Manager. I cover the Gateway Cities region, and I also oversee outreach on this project. So again, thanks for having us today. Before I ask Magda Kana, who's the project manager, to come up and give the presentation, I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that we will be hosting a community open house here in Paramount to discuss updates on the West Santa Ana Branch Transit Corridor project. That is scheduled for Monday, September 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. It's taking place at Progress Park in the Progress Plaza West Community Center. That's located at 1550 Downey Avenue. I have the flyer available. It's in the information area in the back. I know that we have also been coordinating closely with the city manager's office. We provided a banner that can be placed along one of the major intersections. We've also done a mailing, e-blast. We would love your support in encouraging interested residents and stakeholders to join us at this upcoming meeting. So now I would like to ask Meghna Khanna, the project manager, to come up and she'll walk us through the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to give you an update on the West Santa Ana branch project. I do want to focus just on the alignment that runs through Paramount and talk about the funding. We are in the environmental process, so I'll touch on the key milestone dates for environmental and then talk about the next steps. The project is driven by these 5 goals that are listed here, but I do want to emphasize that our key goal is to connect Southeast LA County to downtown Los Angeles. The project is a 19-mile corridor. It has 12 new stations with 5 new park and ride facilities along the corridor, with 2 of those park and ride facilities located within and in close proximity to Paramount. I again want to emphasize that the population and employment densities along this corridors is 5 times higher than LA County, so we do see a benefit of building this project, and it is one of our high priority projects. To give you an update on the alignment in Paramount, it is approximately 1.9 miles, and it is primarily at grade with aerial grade separations at Downey Avenue and Paramount Boulevard and Rosecrans. There will be 2 new stations serving Paramount. The Paramount Rosecrans station, which is shown in that circle at the street, is located within City of Paramount. It is an aerial station, so it's over the street. The second station, which is in close proximity to City of Paramount, basically bordering City of Paramount, and it's located in Southgate, is at 105, and it's called at the Green Line. We will be building a new West Santa Ana branch station as part of the project, and we will be adding an infill station along the Green Line that runs in the freeway. So there'll be 2 stations that will be located at 105, allowing for that transfer activity. Both these stations include park and ride facility. We will be looking at improving pedestrian connections to these stations, especially the 105 station. As I mentioned, the Green Line station would be located in the middle of the freeway. So connections between the West Santa Ana branch and the Green Line station, we want to ensure there is a pleasant pedestrian connection between those 2 stations. Initially, when we looked at the 105 Green Line station, it was located in City of Paramount, but it resulted in some significant property impacts. So we have shifted that station north, working with the city, working with stakeholder group based on the input to minimize property impacts that were located, that could have resulted if we had located the station in Paramount. And also, there is an existing overpass that connects the Paramount High School campuses. As we build the West Santa Ana branch, we will be modifying it into an underpass. It will exclusively be for the school and will not be would not be a public access. So it will be an underpass designed for accessibility, ADA access, but it will be exclusively for school use, not for public access. We couldn't have done this project without the help and support of city staff. So we have been continuously working with your city staff on the environmental process. We have been discussing key project updates, gathering input on the technical and design work. And city is assisting us on providing the data as needed for this project. And we make sure that we keep getting updates on the planning efforts that are going on in the city so we can incorporate that as we work on this project. And we will continue this coordination. We do have ongoing meetings with your city staff. And we do plan to work on a memorandum of understanding. We will be coming back to the city, working with city staff on this memorandum of understanding to guide our planning efforts as well as construction activities as we get into the construction of this project. I do want to mention that along this corridor, approximately 10 miles of the corridor, especially south of Slauson Station, is freight owned, and we are coordinating with UPR and Port of Long Beach and Los Angeles, because that timely coordination and agreement with the freight operators is critical to this project, as we will be sharing the corridor with them. For the funding aspects, Measure M expenditure plan identifies $4 billion for this project. The funding is identified in 2 cycles, $1 billion coming in 2028 and another $3 billion slated for this project in 2041. The updated project cost as of 2018 stands at $6.5 to $6.6 billion, depending on the alternative that we select in the downtown. And these numbers are based off the 5% design, doesn't include the negotiations we will have with UPR, and it excludes the first and last mile. So as you see, there is a funding gap, but Metro team is continuously working on identifying other funding sources for this project. The updated environmental planning process, we are currently, as I said, we are working with all the cities to update the technical analysis, our key design issues. We do plan to release the draft EIR, EIS in 2020. When I say 2020, we are looking at late 2020, December 2020 for release of the draft EIR, EIS. We will be going to the board for selection of our locally preferred alternative in April of 2021. And we do intend to have a final EIR, EIS done by late 2021. We do anticipate to start initial work, construction activities, which could be utility relocation or freight relocation, sometime in 2022 to allow us to open this project by 2028. I will let Julia talk through some of the upcoming community opportunities. And I also want to introduce Colin, who's a senior director with the Office of Extraordinary Innovation. And we are looking at public-private partnership opportunity to deliver this project on an accelerated schedule. And he can give you a quick update on the public-private partnership and answer any questions related to that.
Thank you, Meghna. Following are some of the opportunities that we're going to have upcoming for public involvement on this project. We conducted a round of public rail tours earlier this spring, so we're going to be releasing an overview video later this month, which is basically an opportunity for those who weren't able to join us in person to be able to view that tour and hopefully choose to be able to take that tour themselves so that they can get familiar with what a light rail system looks like. The second item refers to that Paramount Community House that I mentioned earlier, which is on Monday, September 9th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Progress Park. We are also working on another project video that will kind of simulate what this alignment, what the light rail system will look like as it goes through the different communities along the corridor. So we expect that to be ready to go in October, so next month. And we also plan on holding another round of community update meetings in October at the end of the month. So as soon as we have all of that information available, we will be sharing that with you, and we encourage you to share that with your stakeholders. And so as Meghna mentioned, the environmental planning work continues. We're continuing our coordination efforts, our technical analysis, the advanced design. We will be looking at the first last mile planning next year. Again, those are the dates that Meghna mentioned earlier, releasing the draft environmental document late 2020. We would then be doing a round of public hearings along the entire corridor. So that would most likely happen in early 2021. The board, the Metro board, would select the locally preferred alternative in the spring of 2021, and then we would certify the final EIR and issue the record of decision in late 2021. So now I would like to introduce Colin Papard. He is with Metro's Office of Extraordinary Innovation, and he can give you a quick update on our public-private partnership efforts.
Thanks, Julia. I'll be really brief because that was a lot of information, but just quickly, Metro is looking at a range of different models for delivering the project to try and understand how we can bring the best value to the taxpayer in terms of the timing and performance and budget of the project overall. So P3, it really is just another delivery model like a design build or design bid build. And it gives us different pros and cons in terms of making sure we're getting the asset we're looking for and the timeframes we're looking for at the cost that we're looking for. Common misconception is that P3 brings new funding to the table. It doesn't. While it does involve the private sector as a financial partner, and they become invested in the performance and delivery of the project, they do get paid back over time through a different type of financial arrangement. So while it will potentially enhance our financial capacity to more flexibly borrow money to pay for the segment that we're looking at, it is a challenge. The funding challenge is not going to be solved by P3, so that's just an important thing to talk about. As the project is being designed through Megan's process, the Office of Extraordinary Innovation is performing ongoing financial analysis to understand what the opportunities and risks of the project are, and that gets boiled down into a report called the Value for Money analysis that looks at what are all of the actual costs of the project, but what are the potential costs of the risks as well, for schedule delays, for cost overruns, things like that, and how we can mitigate those through transfer to a delivery partner through a P3 arrangement to make sure that once we have a final project that's permitted environmentally, that we can get shovels in the ground, get the project delivered on schedule, on budget, without some of the challenges that have affected other infrastructure projects around the region. So we're hoping that it brings innovation to the table in terms of the project design and delivery, but ultimately the best project is a boring project that doesn't have a lot of surprises, and that's what we're aiming here for with this partnership opportunity. So happy to answer any questions that you might have, but there's a lot of questions about the project as well, so I've got a great team to work with to answer those.
Okay. Questions?
May I?
Yes.
I was hoping that this presentation was going to be a little more specific to exactly where the line's going in Paramount and how it affects certain properties in Paramount. When can we expect to see that? Because the information going to the residents that are along the rail line that are going to be impacted are getting conflicting information, and they're very concerned about their homes, the placement of the rail, you know, sound walls, landscaping, all of those things. When are they going to hear something specific?
As Julia mentioned, on Monday, September 9th, we are having that open house, which will get into the details. We will have roll plots and like showing the details of where the light rail would be, where the freight corridor with freight line would be relocated, the location of the sound walls in respect to people's parcels. So that's the meeting. We are getting into the details, and that's where we want to share how these stations would be located or what the parking is. So we are sharing all those details at the Monday meeting.
I did understand that that was going to happen at the main meeting, but I was also told that this meeting would be specific to Paramount, and we would have those specifics here, and then you would share them again at the main meeting. So it's disappointing to me for the people who I encouraged to come or to view it live, because I thought they were going to get those answers. So there again, miscommunication.
I apologize for that, but I do want to mention that sharing that level of detail, you want to get into the 40% scale drawings, and for a presentation this size, we couldn't share all those details, but at the Monday meeting on September 9th, we will have all the details. We will be showing a large set of drawings, relationship to residential homes, where the light rail would be, sound wall would be, freight would be clearly depicted on drawings.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
Just two quick questions. Two things that were kind of blaring to me: the underground tunnel that would lead the high school students out into what area?
So it's just connecting the two campuses that are located across this freight corridor or the light rail corridor. So it just connects one campus to the other campus.
And can you give me examples of where tunnels like that have been used? Because honestly, that presents a huge safety concern for me.
So as I mentioned, and I can give you examples, as I mentioned, this would be just exclusively for the school to use this tunnel. It would not be open to public. The good thing about having an underpass over the overcrossing, right now there is an overcrossing, it doesn't have ADA access, doesn't have ramps or anything for the pedestrians. So with the underpass, we will be able to provide that ADA access.
Okay.
We do have something located along the goal line, but it is not for the light rail project. There is another pedestrian tunnel located along the Metrolink by the Fontana station, and we can share examples and send those examples to
For students?
It is not for students, it's for the passengers using the Metrolink system.
Okay, so that's my concern, that it's for students. These are children. And then also, you're saying it's only going to be for the students. How are you going to secure that?
So it will, that's something we have to work with the school district. We will enter into an agreement with the school district, and that would be exclusively being for the school. And the reason we are designing it, because when we design a light rail system, it will have overhead catenary system, which will require clearances for that pedestrian bridge. And as we were redesigning the bridge, we worked with the city staff and also some of the stakeholder meetings we've had. We have met with some representatives from the school, and an underpass was considered as a viable, better option.
Okay. I don't necessarily agree, but, just there's no examples of that anywhere else. That I just take Paramount to be the test pilot program for an underground tunnel where kids, are going to be going back and forth. And then in addition to that, we're saying it's going to be exclusively for these kids, but then there's really no answer as to how we're going to make sure, that that's in compliance, that nobody's violating that. So it is a concern.
And as we work with the school district, we can talk about safety measures, cameras, security, and also we can share examples. Right now, I can't think of an example that's along a light rail system which accesses the school, but we can share examples with you if there is something that we have done along other lines.
Okay, and then the other topic was the private buy-in for private companies to come in and do the buy-in. What qualifications? Is it going to be private buy-in within the area of Paramount, or anybody along the rail that can come in? My concern is corporate capture, if you know what I mean.
Similar to when we bid out any of our projects, we go through a public procurement process. Typically for our mega projects, our rail projects, we hire a design firm and a construction contractor. This would be the same arrangement, but then it would add an investment group that would provide some of their own equity investment and also raise additional private debt that would take the place of Metro's bonds. And they get paid back for that equity and the debt that they raise to finance construction of the project based on their successful delivery of it. So it creates an incentive structure by which they're only paid back for successful delivery, as opposed to we pay our bondholders back regardless of whether the project is delivered or not. That adds a level of rigor and discipline to the delivery that actually penalizes the private firms that are going to hire to deliver the project regardless of how we do it. It adds a level of financial investment and rigor because their outcomes are our outcomes. It aligns our interests in a new way. So we're not talking about smaller groups. We're talking about firms that are specialized in investment in infrastructure projects with the focus of bringing quality control, quality assurance to those delivery processes.
So those qualifications and specifications are already in place?
They're not already in place. They'll be drafted once the project's design is at a more advanced phase, but they'll be very, very rigorous.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions?
No.
Okay, you good? Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay, item number 6, we have another report, Eco Rapid Authority.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. The city has been a member of a group called the Eco Rapid Transit Authority since 2003. This group's main mission was to advocate for the construction of the light rail line, and as we just heard about, Metro's made this light rail line one of their top priorities to get done by 2028. So it's looking more and more like reality. So with us tonight is Mr. Mike Adama, the Executive Director of Eco Rapid, council member, to tell us what his organization is now going to be doing. But before that, we have an introduction.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Hansen and council members. My name is Ali Taj. I'm City Council Member for City of Artesia. Also, I'm the Vice Chair for Eco Rapid Transit. Today, we are here to speak a little bit about Eco Rapid Transit, share with you our partners, which is LA Metro, how Eco Rapid evolved 20 years ago, and where we are today and what the future looks like. But more so, I want to thank you for your membership. Councilmember Lori sits on representing yourselves, and I want to thank you, Vice Mayor, who's been sitting prior to that and working with City Manager John Marino. Really, it has been a pleasure. But today, I want to thank you for your membership, and I look forward to continued membership. Mike Kodama, who's the Executive Director, is going to make a small presentation, and we'll have questions. We'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for having us, and I'm moving a little bit slower today. A little bit of back problems, but we'll get over that. The main thing that we wanted to talk about today was kind of where we started from, how we got here, and the effort of all of you as well, your colleagues, to make this happen. And then second, where do we go from here? There's a lot of pieces still in play, a lot of things that are still going to be happening, and we want to make sure that we're of that. No, I hit the wrong button. All right, so Eco-Rapid Transit consists of a number of members. It's a joint powers authority that was formed in 2003. We have 11 members. 9 of them are in gateway cities. 2 extend further to the north, Glendale and Hollywood Burbank Airport. The actual first real project we started when I came on board was in 2009, was actually with the airport. They had $6 million of federal funding from a program called STIRA that had never been deobligated since the 1980s. So they asked, can you obligate it? Can we use it? Can we figure out a way to do a transportation plan for the airport? So we worked with Metro staff, a gentleman by the name of John Grace at the time, and a year later, we got the funds obligated and working for the airport. I want to remind everyone that we're not really building something brand new. At one time, there were trains, streetcar systems, and things like that. This line actually consists of 2 lines working together, what was called the Pacific Electric and the Los Angeles Railway lines. So if we take a look at the history of transportation, it was actually built on rail and came through the corridor here too as well. Some of the existing West Santa Ana branch alignment, I think safely says, we can safely say needs a lot of work. Here in Paramount, you've already done a lot. So, you know, I think your staff has taken advantage of the opportunities there. How do we keep taking advantage of these opportunities that come up is one of the questions that we want to work together on. Metro did a presentation on the corridor itself, so I'm not going to get too much into that, but I will come back to the 2 stations and what we can all be doing together. This is a summary of the milestones and major achievements. I can tell you that since the organization was formed in 2003, Paramount was one of the original members. I can also tell you we were never at the front of the line throughout this entire process of funding it. You've heard the stories in the past from Gene Daniels and Daryl Hoffmeyer, and now with Lori Guillen on our board. There's been a series of setbacks, and then we move forward. The original funding in Measure R in 2008, Senator Lowenthal, who's now Congressmember Lowenthal, led that effort, and they actually held up the state legislation until 11-something at night, and it was due to be signed by midnight to make sure that this line was in there. That's actually how we got our original planning money of $240 million. One of the things that we looked at too was we talked about, should we become our own construction authority? You could see the Gold Line's done that. However, our feeling was, taking a look at all of our different options, all of our different cities, you know, we trusted that Metro as a partner could work with us and actually be the one who does construction of the line. Now, there's a lot of complications with how you construct a line, and those are still going to be upon all of us to address as we move forward. In 2016, we were part of the Measure M program, and I can tell you we are not at the front of the line again. We were at the back of the line. So our project was slated to be completed not in 2028, not in 2027, but in 2041. It's all of you working together, along with Gateway Cities members and others in the corridor and throughout the region that pushed through, that created this concept called public-private partnership. What the public-private partnership does is it moves us forward. Think of buying something with cash. So Metro has so much cash that they have that they could spend. Well, what the P3 does is it allows you, in a sense, to finance that and pay for your house just like we would. They have guarantees of money coming in through the measure, and this allows the P3 to happen. We also wanted to recognize that there was $338 million in SB1 funds, so thank you to Anthony Rendon and his colleagues for making that happen. They were able to secure $1.7 billion to help Metro fund some of their infrastructure, which included $338 million specifically for this line, which helps along the way. So yes, we're a bit short, approximately $4.3 billion. Going to need at least, I think, the latest numbers I saw were 6.7 billion. But in transportation, that's pretty good at this point to have 2/3 of the money available. Now the next push is to push together, work with our electeds, and to secure the rest of the funding through a variety of different mechanisms. It's actually quite complicated as you kind of go through. We are also taking a look at eco-rapid transit, and one of the best quotes comes from our former chair, Luis Marquez. The whole entire board, by the way, worked together to choose those stations you saw. They were not by accident. That is actually something different that had never happened before in metro planning, where the local communities got together at a table and chose their stations, including the one at Paramount and Rosecrans. But he said what we are is we're really an economic development project with a train connecting all of us together. I want to take this moment to compliment your staff on that. You know, when we were looking at the plans that were in place and the holes that were in place, John Moreno, Kevin Chun, John Carver, and the entire staff here came to us and said, you know, we got a little bit of a hole. How do we start building our own economic engine here? And with that in my pocket, first chance we got, you know, when Metro said, well, what do you need money for? I said, we need $125,000 right away for Paramount to get their planning effort going. And during that time frame over the last 2 or 3 years, I have to tell you, your staff's worked really hard to put in the planning effort to become experts and to really work on transit-oriented development with us. So I know the work that John did with Lillian Birkenheim of our staff and just how much time it took. So I wanted to make sure that all of you know of their effort behind the scenes. I don't get enough credit for those kind of things, but it's really, really difficult. When we take a look at our stations and our locations, we see a number of things that have to happen. The funding still needs to be put in place. We need to think about how we're going to build the communities. Sustainability, jobs, the future, quality of life are important issues. We feel that we've spent a lot of time together. There's strength and unity in numbers. Example for me recently was the Dutch Consul General from Holland was here and was complaining that he wanted to see the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. And I said, well, why do you want to see the mayor of the city of Los Angeles? Well, they have a lot of people. Well, 4.2 million people. And so I told him, I said, there's a city here of 2.4 million people all working together. It's called Gateway Cities COG. There's a city here of 1.1 million people all working together. It's called Eco-Rapid Transit. Come and visit our mayors and council members and our city managers, and they will welcome you with open arms. They're coming back in 6 months. And they have talked about coming here rather than visiting another city where they're knocking on the door and they couldn't get in. We also think that this idea of collaboration and connecting communities is really important. There's changes that are taking place. It's a planning project that is transitioning to construction, to economic development, and to community development. And we think that goes hand in hand. I've had an opportunity to work around the country, and in some of these places, actually most of the places, we're doing the planning and economic planning now before the train comes in. So you don't have to wait. We can actually push forward. And your city staff is already working towards that right now, which I think is great news. So I would encourage the city to do that. There's enough work in this corridor. I'm not interested in running each city and taking land use. I think the land use authority needs to stay here. But it also is a leverage for you as you do your planning work and as you look at land use and how to make these stations work. So when you get a chance, take a look at Metro system, take a look at the good stations, and take a look at the poor stations. Don't isolate yourself to just look at one. Look at both. And if you travel around the world and take a look at things, look at those too as well. And if you need any of that, let me know. I've been lucky enough to travel and been invited to places around the world to see how this all works. So with that, I wanted to thank you for your time and We are here to answer any questions you may have. And again, thank you to all your staff, Mr. Moreno, for all the hard work that you guys do as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Nope, pretty well covered it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, resolution number 19.032, approving the acquisition of property located at 16305 Hunsaker Avenue. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, our next item involves part of our ongoing efforts to eliminate blight in our community. And as you know, we still have leftover funds in our low to moderate income housing account from the old redevelopment agency. One of the allowable uses of this fund is for property acquisition. So there's a blighted property on Hunsaker Avenue that we identified, and we'd like to purchase that and then work with the developer to construct a single-family home on this property. And we've done this in the past. And with that, I'll turn it over to our planning director, John Carver, who will handle the item.
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor and council members, this item is a request to purchase 16305 Hunsaker Avenue for the future development of an affordable single-family home. The property was appraised by an appraiser hired by the city at $400,000, and there's also a 3% realtor commission for a total purchase price of $412,000. The property would be purchased with low to moderate income housing funds that are from the former redevelopment agency. These funds contain about $700,000 and can only be used for the provision of affordable housing. Development of a single-family home at the site will provide a significant visual improvement to the surrounding neighborhood, as the property has been in a dilapidated condition for many years. And here's a look at the site outlined in red. Hunsaker is in the middle, running north and south, and Home Depot is just located to the north, adjacent to the property. The surrounding neighborhood is primarily medium-density residential and some single-family residential. Here's a look at the property. The photo on the top is the subject property. The two photos below are the pictures of the surrounding neighborhood. And then across the street, the photo on the right is a home that we did about 7 or 8 years ago. That's an affordable home that we did. And you might recall that this is also the family that did the solar installation through Grid Alternatives. The property contains 7,660 square feet and is currently developed with 2 structures. The larger structure, which contains about 1,600 square feet, has been used for light manufacturing uses, while the smaller structure, which contains about 800 square feet, contains 2 residential units. To make way for the affordable home, these structures would be demolished as part of the project. The property is zoned light manufacturing, and as part of this property, the site would be rezoned to medium-density residential, and that would be to be consistent with the zoning of the surrounding neighborhood and also to prevent future manufacturing uses at the property. As we have done in the past for affordable homes, we would partner with a housing developer. We have had initial talks with Habitat for Humanity regarding the project. The city's contribution to the project would be the land, which is similar to affordable homes that we have done in the past. As the project progresses, we would determine a method to select a family to purchase the home. There are a number of benefits that acquiring the property could bring to the city. We would be using dedicated funds that need to be used for affordable housing. The development of a single-family home at the site would eliminate a blighted piece of property. The rezoning to medium-density residential will ensure that manufacturing uses cannot locate at the site. And finally, we can develop a partnership with Habitat for Humanity for future projects. And we're recommending that you adopt Resolution 19032, approving the purchase of 16305 Hunsaker Avenue for the provision of an affordable home, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I'll move the item.
Second.
Move on. It's been moved by Lemon, seconded by Hoffmeyer to approve resolution number 19.032. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos? Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Item number 8, the public hearing, introduction of ordinance number 1115, This is approving zoning ordinance text amendment number 12 to allow and regulate alcoholic beverage manufacturing and accessory tasting rooms in the C3 commercial zone, CM commercial manufacturing, M1 and M2. Have staff report, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you may recall, we made some pretty substantial changes to our industrial zoning code last year. Many of the outdated uses that we had in our code were removed. At the time, we informed y'all that we would slowly add back into these zones some more modern uses. Well, we see an opportunity to add a pretty cool use in town, that is breweries and distilleries. This use is pretty popular these days, and many small breweries have popped up all around Southern California. So with that, I'll turn it over once again to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will handle the item and also explain the picture in the lower right-hand corner there. No.
Yes, so this is one of our employees, John King, who likes to put pictures into our presentations that are humorous. So this is this item is a request for a municipal code amendment to allow small-scale alcoholic beverage manufacturing and tasting rooms in the city's 2 commercial zones and our 2 manufacturing zones. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this item to the City Council at its August meeting. As the council is aware, and as John mentioned, last October, there were substantial changes that were made to the city's industrial zoning regulations. And among other things, the changes eliminated a lot of uses that have nuisance factors, such as noise and emissions. We are now attempting to add back into the industrial zones uses that do not have these types of nuisance factors. And the proposal before you this evening is one of those uses. By way of background for the impetus of the zoning amendment, consumers are moving away from beers that are produced in large breweries and are buying more and more craft beers, which are produced on a much smaller scale. And right now in California, there are 841 craft breweries. And as you can see in the graph to the bottom of the slide, since 2011, there has been a steady increase in the number of breweries opening up in California. And this is a map. This is showing Los Angeles County. Right now, there are 92 brick and mortar brewery locations in LA County. And you can see the tags are the breweries that are located in the county. And then you can see in the red circle where we're located and kind of in the Southeast LA County area, there are no breweries down in this area. So we're looking to help hopefully capitalize on this. There are several licenses that are granted by ABC in relation to breweries. There's a license for a microbrewery that would produce less than 60,000 barrels per year. There's also a license for a brew pub that could have a restaurant associated with it, and that would produce less than 5,000 barrels per year. The code amendment before you this evening would require that a conditional use permit be obtained for small-scale breweries and craft distilleries. There would be a thorough environmental analysis as well as review and approval by the city's public safety department and the sheriff's department. A tasting room would also be allowed as part of this amendment, and this would be limited to 25% of the floor area. Hours of operation for microbreweries and distilleries would be limited to noon to 9 p.m., Sundays to Thursdays, and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. A restaurant that had a brewery associated with it or connected to it could, of course, sell alcohol until 2 in the morning. Retail operations in a manufacturing zone could not start until after 3 p.m., and this would be to prevent any disruption to surrounding businesses. And also as part of this ordinance, minors would not be permitted in a tasting room. There are a number of benefits to this code amendment. It keeps moving the city away from heavy manufacturing uses. It would allow for creative reuse of existing buildings. It could allow the city to become a destination for brew pubs and distilleries. And salaries in this field are generally higher than the labor market. Other benefits would include microbreweries and distilleries become social gathering places. Small-scale brewers take part in community events. They sponsor events, and do volunteering in the cities. Small-scale brewers also attract other development. So in summary, establishing these guidelines for these types of uses will help to serve a market need and will allow for new leasing opportunities in the city. And by requiring a conditional use permit, it will help to ensure that the area surrounding a brewery or a distillery would not be impacted by nuisance factors. And we're recommending that you introduce Ordinance 1115, approving zoning ordinance text amendment number 12, and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
There's a public hearing. Before I open that, any questions first?
I have one real quick. Is there, I know we need to make the ordinance change and the zoning changes, but is there anybody, any interest from outside that somebody wants to do this in our city?
Yes, over the past probably 12 to 18 months, we've had 2 or 3 people that have come to the counter that have been looking to do something like this. Unfortunately, at that time, we didn't have any guidelines in place.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, who regulates the microbreweries? Like, is it the TTB that regulates them to make sure that they're processing, odor, all that stuff?
Right. Well, so the city would be issuing a conditional use permit. So
Right.
we would do an environmental analysis that would look at any nuisance factors to make sure that there would not be any impact to the surrounding uses. Also, ABC is involved. They issue the license. They do their inspections, and then there are state agencies also that are involved in it.
Any further questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. We'll hear testimony in the following order. First, those in favor, then those opposed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Opposed?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Lemon, second by Hoffmeyer to close the public hearing. Any further questions? Nothing? Motion would be in order then.
Roll call?
Motion would be in order. Oh, we got to do roll call to close public hearing. Sorry, forgot about that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes.
Move the item.
Second.
Motion by Lemon, second by Hoffmeyer to read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1115, and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Item number 9, resolution number 19.034, support to maintain local control for energy solutions. We have a roll call. We have a public speaker on that too, correct?
Yes, we do.
We'll
Yes,
do
we
that
do,
first?
Mr. Mayor. So
You
yeah,
wanna
we'll do
give her a
that.
report
We'll
first?
do the report first, and then
Okay.
we'll call up Ms. Emerson.
Okay.
Just as part of introduction, though, as you know, sustainable energy choices are becoming more and more abundant. We joined the Clean Power Alliance last year, which means that 36% of the power being brought into Paramount is from renewable sources. So that's kind of cool. Additionally, Paramount has always been about allowing residents to make choices whenever possible. Recently, however, in Sacramento, we're hearing about new regulations that would limit a person's sustainable energy choice. The only energy choice that is being pushed is electrification, without looking at the clean air benefits and other energy choices that are out there like natural gas. So with that, I'll turn it over to Adriana Figueroa, our Public Works Director, to tell us more about this particular item. Adriana?
Thank you, John. As indicated, California's energy policies are critical to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and reducing the possible impacts of climate change on our residents. The state legislature and state agencies are increasingly proposing new legislation and regulations eliminating choices of energy by mandating technologies to power buildings and public as well as private fleets, including transit operations, as a strategy to achieve the state's climate goal. Clean, affordable, and reliable energy is crucial to the material health, safety, and well-being of our residents. We understand the need to mitigate the possible impact of climate change and are committed to doing our part to help achieve climate goals, but require flexibility to do so in a manner that best serves the needs of our residents and businesses. The resolution before you, which was brought to our attention, by the way, by the gas company, supports balanced energy solutions that provide for local control by allowing all technologies and energy resources that can power buildings and fuel vehicles while also meeting or exceeding emissions reduction regulations. The recommended action is that the City Council read by title only and adopt resolution number 19-034. And that concludes my report, but I'll be able to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Okay, we have the speaker.
Yes, we do.
Push it.
That's better. Thank you. Hi, thank you very much. Yes, I'm Julia Emerson with the Southern California Gas Company. You've already been recognized as Clean Air Heroes by the Air Quality Management District. And when I heard about that, I was amazed because they don't easily call people clean air heroes. So you're already recognized leaders in clean air. And I want to thank you for all that you have done in the past. This resolution is very consistent with what you have done in the past and what I think you have stated as your goals. It's non-binding. It does state the importance of clean air goals, meeting clean air goals, but also trying to dissuade the state from mandating what you can do, what your building codes should be. 90 cities, as of Thursday night, have now supported this resolution, and we're asking you to support it tonight. We think it's consistent with what you've been wanting to do. Your city staff report was excellent, thought it was very complete. And the important thing that we're looking at is the Public Utilities Commission will be having a hearing on September the 12th, so next week, and they will be talking about, among other things, the future of energy, of course, in our state and what should be allowed and what shouldn't. So we think that with your stated goals in the past, your clean air goals, your intention for renewable energy, which the gas company is also part of that. We're very excited about that. And encouraging the development of new technology. We hope that you will support this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, anything?
Move the item.
Second.
Moved by Hoffmeyer, second by Almost, read by title only, and adopt resolution number 19.034. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Gia?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Item number 10, resolution number 19.033, declaring October 2, 2019 Clean Air Day in the city of Paramount. We have a staff report, please.
Yes, sir. Clean Air is coming up. Clean Air Day is coming up in October. Last spring, we were actually introduced to members from the Coalition for Clean Air. We then sat down and met with them to see what their organization was all about and what we as a city can do to help further their efforts to promote clean air throughout the state of California. They told us about Clean Air Day and asked us to support this. So with that, I'll turn it over to John Carver to tell us a little bit about what Clean Air Day is all about. John?
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a resolution in support of Clean Air Day, which is a project of the Coalition for Clean Air. The Coalition for Clean Air was started in 1971 and is the only organization in the state that works exclusively on air quality issues. Sorry. The first Clean Air Day took place on October 3rd of 2018. Last year, there were over 100,000 individual participants, 160 companies and nonprofits, and mayors throughout California that participated in Clean Air Day. And this slide shows some of the sponsors of Clean Air Day 2019, which will take place on October 2nd. By taking the Clean Air Pledge, we can commit to taking action towards cleaning the air. Some examples include planting something, leaving your vehicle at home, or choosing not to light a fire or a barbecue. And here are some other actions that can be taken to support and participate in Clean Air Day. And we're recommending that you adopt Resolution 19033, declaring October 2nd, 2019 Clean Air Day in the city of Paramount, and to take the Clean Air Pledge. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
John, with this Clean Air Day, and I read the memo and it talked about residents doing their part, local businesses doing their part. Has there been any thought about reaching out to the facilities here in Paramount that, that one of the 18, the listed 18 metal companies that we had given a year to be in compliance with the CUPs and the ZOTA ordinances, and only 2 as of a few months ago, or 2 or 3 or 4, maybe something like that, out of the 18 had been in compliance? Could this be used as a great opportunity, since you're going to put it out to the residents, to also send a memo out to those metal companies stating that this is our goal to clean up our air, and we continue to want to get them in compliance?
Absolutely. In fact, it's a great idea to send this out to the companies, and they can pass that on to their employees and hopefully get their employees to take some of these actions also on October 2nd.
Well, not just their employees, but their standards of doing business, and the fact that we need them to get back to us with their compliance.
Right. We're dealing with that on a separate track. They have till October 4th to turn those applications in. We do have 3 of the 18 have been turned in. We're talking extensively with probably 5 or 6 other ones who are very close to submitting those applications. So we're getting close to having applications submitted, and we are talking with the companies on that.
They've had a year. October is next month. This is a perfect opportunity to once again say, we need you guys to get in compliance. We've waited going on 12 months, and this is a perfect opportunity to instill that Clean Air Day is something is a goal, and we all want to do our part, and we're holding them accountable as well.
Absolutely. We can get this information to them and also remind them of the need to submit their applications.
Thank you.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Moved by Lemon, seconded by Hoffmeyer to read by title only, adopt resolution number 19.033. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Item number 11, public hearing, fiscal year 2018-19 consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. We have staff report, please.
Yes, you may, Mr. Mayor and Council. This next item is a HUD requirement that we do every year. It's an annual review of our progress towards meeting the objectives of our plan use for CDBG and home funds. So here's our Finance Director, Karina Lamb, to tell you more about this. Karina?
Thanks, John. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Council. The item before you is fiscal year 2019 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, so-called CAPER. As a recipient of the CDBG and home funds, we are required by HUD to conduct 2 public hearings per year to seek public input. One is for the one-year action plan, which is the budget, and the other one is the CAPER, is a EM report, which we're doing that tonight. This CAPER evaluates each year if the city has met our goals and objectives that was listed in our one-year action plan, as well as the 5-year consolidated plan. A public notice was published in Press Telegram on August 17, and the CAPER documentation was made available to the public at the library, City Hall, and also on city website. Over the last 2 decades, we're fortunate to continue receiving the CDBG and home funds, and they have become one of the most significant sources of grants. In fiscal year 2019, the city expanded approximately $1.2 million in CDBG and home funds combined. For CDBG funds, we continue to use the resources for programs such as fair housing services, graffiti removal, code enforcement, and commercial rehab projects. As for home fund, we continue using it to do residential improvement projects. Aside from the HUD-funded services and programs, City also use our own general fund to augment the services and funding for different organizations. For example, City continue to use general fund for graffiti removal and code enforcement, also to fund various nonprofit groups such as the Children's Dental Clinics, Pathways, and Sukasa. When we combined all the funds, overall, the city came very close to meeting or exceeded the goals set in a one-year action plan and a 5-year consolidated plan. With that, it's recommended the City Council conduct a public hearing and receive and file the fiscal year 2019 CAPER. That wraps up my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions before we open public hearing? None? Okay, public hearing is open. We'll hear testimony in the following manner again. Those in favor, then those opposed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Opposed?
Close public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Hoffmeyer, second by Lemmons. Close public hearing. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes.
Move the item.
Second.
Motion by Lemmons, second by Almost, to receive and file the 2018-19 caper. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Item number 12, authorization for the purchase of vertical monument sign, city project number 9032. We have a staff report, please.
Yes, sir. We're now in our third year of changing out our old monument entryway signs. The new design is what the city council approved back in 2016. It's a more modern look, as you know. So I'll turn it over to Adriana Figueroa. Will tell you that signs are purchased using our capital reserve fund. So Adriana, take it away.
Thank you, John. Mayor, members of the council, as indicated, this project is part of our continual efforts to beautify our entry points and provide residents and visitors with a welcoming and aesthetically pleasing entry sign. The project was budgeted in this current fiscal year budget at $52,734, utilizing capital reserve funds, and includes both signs for east and west entry points at Rosecrans. This is similar to the recently installed signs on Paramount Boulevard and also on Alondra. The project will be coordinated with our drought-tolerant planting project for the medians also on Rosecrans. The manufacture and installation of the vertical signs is a sole source product that must match the newly installed signage. This is a sample of the recently installed sign on Paramount Boulevard, which would be very similar, actually be the same on the one on Rosecrans. And these are the medians. This is where it's going to go on Rosecrans Avenue, the west entry point. We will also, as indicated previously, coordinate the median planting, drought-tolerant planting for this area as well, so we will coordinate that. And this is the east entry point on Rosecrans Avenue. So with that, the recommended action is to approve the purchase and installation of 2 vertical monument signs from Bravo Sign and Design in the amount of $52,734. And that concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Move the item.
Second.
Moved by Hoffmeyer, second by Lemmons, authorize the purchase of 2 vertical monument signs from Bravo Sign and Design. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes. Okay, comments, committee reports from council members. Start down on my right. Nothing? Yes?
Yes, I do. Was able to attend a neighborhood watch meeting on Gundry and Alondra. And the biggest complaint, I guess, is going to be about people not stopping at stop signs and speed. Was able to attend a contract cities meeting with our contracted sheriff's department. That was nice and informative. Then I also was able to attend in Bell Gardens the screening of The Devil We Know. And that was hosted by Christina Garcia, the assembly person in the general area. And I would encourage anybody that's interested to watch it on Netflix. It talks about chemicals, and years ago they thought these chemicals were safe. Now we find out that certain chemicals are not. But also pay particular attention to corporate capture and what that means to cities like ours. And so I found it very informative, although it's not a chemical that we know is here. One of the companies that use fume suppressants is still using this chemical to suppress the emissions of chromium-6. So they use another chemical to suppress certain chemicals which are equally as dangerous. So while other surrounding cities have more metal plating companies than we do, we have one, but it is still potentially very dangerous for us. So I would encourage anybody to watch it and get involved or get educated in it. Let's see, what else? I think that concludes my report for the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Good evening. Actually, I also attended the California Contract Cities Dinner, and thank you, Public Safety, for getting us there safely. It was nice to see our commissioners there, and as well as our captain. It was a good evening. Actually, and thank you, John, for actually giving us status about Village Park. That has been the topic of conversation, I think, in the city, and again, you've already talked about putting cameras there. So thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Well,
all I got.
Good.
I would just like to report that SIACA will be putting on a pet care fair on Sunday, September 22nd at Paramount Park from 11 to 2, and at that time you can do pet licensing, low-cost vaccinations, and of course pet adoptions, and everyone's welcome.
Okay. Nothing? No, I won't go into the mosquitoes. We've had a few more found, actually. However, I will say a little something about last Thursday. We had a special CWAC meeting at Southeast Water Coalition, and it was held at the new Water Replenishment District building that's in Pico Rivera. It's not totally complete yet, the building isn't, but it's a pretty neat building, actually. They're going to have some open houses and so on and so forth, and this is where they filter wastewater and put back into reservoirs, basically, is what it does. It's quite an operation that they go through. They gave us a special tour of the thing. Adriana and I were there. They do have a, what would they call that, Adriana, kind of a demonstration kind of thing, but wasn't complete. They wouldn't let us in there yet. But that will be done, and we're talking about having some, opening it up to schools and so on and so forth to come and have a tour. And also our students are going to go there. Was that what they were talking about, were they not?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're making arrangements for our youth commission to get a tour of the facility and what they do there.
Yeah, they had a rooftop garden, and all the view was pretty neat up there. You could see clear to downtown LA. It was all right. Okay, that's about all I have. Staff reports, anything?
Yes, sir. We do have a new employee I'd like to introduce. She's in the front row over here to our left. Ms. Rebecca Borquez. Rebecca, why don't you stand up, say hi to the council. Rebecca was recently hired as a new management analyst in the Community Services and Recreation Department. She graduated from Arizona State University and received her master's degree from the University of Laverne. She's been in the cities of El Monte, Glendora, and Monrovia. She is a loyal Dodger fan, and she also enjoys going into Disneyland and visiting. And when she has a goal of visiting every major league ballpark in the United States. So welcome aboard, Rebecca.
Wow, very good. Every major league ballpark.
Yeah, that's
like
quite a goal to do. Also, it was brought up during public comments quite a bit that a lot of residents attended the CERT program. So once again, we had 19 residents that graduated from the CERT program with 20 hours of disaster preparedness training. So it was a pretty dedicated weekend for these folks. So we thank them for getting involved. We will have another CERT class in the spring of 2020. So we're just going to try and get more people out to that as well. Thirdly, it was also mentioned by the captain that we had met with the head deputy district attorney that is assigned to Compton Court. That's truly important because that's the other end of the law enforcement chain, if you will. Our deputies are out there arresting, they're doing their part. They get to court and things happen for other reasons and they're let out again. So the meeting was very fruitful. It took place a couple of weeks ago. We explained to the head DA there that we fund special operations to target things like traffic and burglary suppression, things that you guys hear, we hear from our residents, from our community members' concerns. And it was agreed, though, that any rejected case could be challenged and appealed. So that's a good sign that the head deputy DA there is willing to work with us. So that was a very meaningful meeting that I want to bring your attention. Lastly, I mentioned it in Friday Memo this weekend. We won the Beacon Award for on the gold level, and that's for our sustainability efforts. So I have a program here if you all like to take a look at it. I believe the mayor got one as well. So things like our partnerships with Grid Alternative, our partnerships with Long Beach Transit because they run zero emission bus services, Our tree planting, we obviously got Tree City USA designation, so a lot of that stuff that we did over 2018, we were able to achieve the Beacon Award for this year. So that'll be handed out at the League of California Cities Conference in Long Beach. So, and that concludes my remarks.
Okay, very good.
Oh, you also had some T-shirts, Mr. Mayor, to give out to the council.
From the Walk for Cancer thing, the Tri-City Walk for Cancer is held at Bellflower High School. I ended up with these somehow from my daughter. Actually, I don't know if she was involved in that. But these were brought to my attention, so there's a T-shirt for everyone. We were there, I was there anyway, and a few other people at this, that's that 24-hour walk that they do throughout the different areas. So it's the Walk for Cancer, so we ended up with these, and a certificate was in that packet also, which we have. You can make a copy or pass it around possibly.
Oh, thank you.
So nice. So other than that, we'll adjourn this meeting to September 17, 2009 at 5 p.m. Now we'll call the successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gian?
Here.
Councilmember Lemons?
Here.
Councilmember Olmos?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Here.
Mayor Hansen?
Here. Public comments?
No, sir.
Consent calendar?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Lemons, second by Hoffmeyer to approve the consent calendar. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Hansen?
Yes, this meeting then is adjourned until October 1st, 2019 at 6 p.m. Thank you.